Hiya. How you doing? We all right? It's a bit grey out there today, isn't it? Well, it certainly is in Yorkshire anyway. And I've got my heater on today. That's a bit weird. Yesterday was freezing as well. So cold. Oh, you just don't know whether you're coming or going, do you? Anyway, I suppose it's good weather for being a knitter and a crocheter, isn't it? We should be well prepared for this. I don't know about you, but I'm layering up at the moment. I've just taken a thicker cardigan off, and I've only taken it off because I'm meant to be showing you this. So today's Shedcast is about primarily tomorrow's update, which is going live at 10 o'clock. Tomorrow's a Saturday, so we always think with weekends it's kind of tricky to decide which times to go with, especially on weekends. So anyway, we've gone for 10 AM just to mix it up a bit, because I don't think we've done that kind of time for quite a while. So it's a really exciting update, this one, particularly exciting because we have our brand new yarn, or at least our latest brand new yarn, and this one's, I suppose you might say, much anticipated. I mentioned it in the ECY Garden, which is our Facebook group. Join us. Quite a while ago, but we sort of got it whilst it was still quite cold, and we started testing it and crocheting with it and knitting with it and everything, and so that was quite a while ago. It you know, if you go through all of the processes really and all the thorough testing, it does take quite a long time. It's quite laborious. It's great, I mean, you know, it's a brilliant thing to be doing, but it is quite laborious, so it takes quite a long time. So that's why I say this is much anticipated, because at least people in the Facebook group will have known about this for quite a long time. So it's very, very exciting. I just love this yarn so much. I mean, I don't stock yarn that I don't love, to be honest. I just, you know, if I didn't like it, I wouldn't have it. There's just no point. But like, even within the perspective of all the yarns that we have that I already really like, this is just particularly gorgeous. It's really captured my imagination, I have to say. So it is called Keld Fingering. It's a fingering weight or 4-ply weight yarn, and it's merino mixed with linen. And have a look at that. Look at that. So these bits are the linen. It doesn't take the colour. Oh, check that out. I like a good slub. It doesn't take the colour like the wool does, the merino, which means that if I'm careful about which colours I dye it, you can see the linen, and that's why you have this sort of mild effect. Or it's sort of like a little bit tweedy. I love it so much, I really do. I just love it. There you go, you can see some more of the slubs. The slubs are sort of quite few and far between. They're not like constant, but then can you see that you've got these little bits of linen sticking out? You can't feel them when you wear it. And then you've got the linen spun in as well, so I hope you can see that adequately. Actually, this is quite a good colour to show it off. This is marigold, this colourway. And here's another one that shows it particularly well. There you go, can you see that? It's so beautiful. I love this yarn so much. I'm very, very excited, so I hope that you're gonna love it as well. So it's 90% superwash superfine merino and 10% linen, and it might only be 10%, but it does make a difference. let me just tell you about sort of the yardage and actual numbers. So the yardage is, it's 393 yards per 100 gram skein, which is 360 metres. So it comes short of, in terms of yardage, of a lot of our 4-ply yarns or fingering weight yarns. The reason being that the linen, it adds quite a bit of weight. So this is still 100 gram skein, but because linen is a bit heavier, you get fewer meters for your 100 grams, if that makes sense. And you do find that with a few of it. Well, certainly Hayton 4-ply is the other yarn that springs to mind, which is a bit shorter as well. So if you're substituting this yarn into a pattern, which is totally fine, just be aware that it's got a little bit less on the meterage or yardage, so you might need an extra skein, especially if it's something like a garment. Just be careful of that. It's fairly fine. It comes in at 16 wraps per inch, which it's a little bit on the thin side for a 4-ply fingering weight yarn. Our singles yarns do tend to be a little bit finer. So I think the reason for this, I'm pretty sure the reason for this, is because it's a singles. So in a plied yarn, in fact, I've got plied yarn to hand. In a plied yarn, because you've got multiple strands being, I hope you can see that okay, because these are all twisted together, this is several strands, it traps air between each strand as it's twisted up, and this doesn't have that because it's a singles. So that means that this is a bit more floofy, you know, like puffs out a bit more because it's got that air trapped in it, whereas this is completely smooth, so it's got less air trapped amongst the fibres, which means it's not poofing out so much, and that's why it's that little bit thinner. But as I will show you shortly, and actually I've tested it before with the Carlisle fingering, which is the pure merino singles, with applied yarn, and they do work fine together. But that's just something to be aware of. If it feels a bit thin, that's why. I have to say though, the Keld, because of the slubs, there's an ever so slight kind of thick and thin bit kind of thing going on. Let me see if I can find one that sort of demonstrates that. No, these all look quite even. You might be able to see it in this little ball or cake. There's just a little bit of unevenness. I mean, I really love that, and I found that it didn't really affect my knitting at all. So yeah, just little things like that, just to think about and be aware of. So those are the numbers. I'll just tell you about the other numbers on the label whilst we're here, because the only other thing is the needle and hook sizes. So I recommended 2.5 to 4mm needles and 2.5 to 5mm hook. So yeah, I found that it worked perfectly fine on 2.5mm needles. In fact, here is a swatch I prepared earlier. This isn't actually the best colour to have done my swatch in, to be honest, because you can't really see the linen because it's the same colour as the wool. So anyway, it is that's 2.5mm. So that's a nice, close, dense fabric, as you would expect. I mean, I wouldn't use this yarn for socks, and socks are pretty much the only thing that I ever do on 2.5mm needles. But if you wanted to make, if you had the patience and you wanted to make something, a hat or something like that, with a nice dense close fabric, then 2.5, this sort of gauge will work perfectly fine. So that's why I've put that on the list, the label even. And then this is, I think I've lost a swatch. So this one is 3.5mm, and I've mentioned it in other shed casts before. 3.5mm is like my go-to size for 4-ply fingering weight yarns. See, I can see through that from the back, and I'm just thinking you can't, can you? They're sort of like, they're fairly big stitches, but they're not too big. It's just kind of like this fabric for me is how I want this yarn to be, if that makes sense. So yeah, the gauge on that, which, because it's the same gauge as on this, is, I think it was 23 stitches over a 10cm square in the stocking stitch, not in this lace. Actually, I think this swatch is not blocked as hard as this jumper, because that looks to me like that's got more stitches per inch, but this jumper certainly is 20, I'm sure it was 23, I can check. I will be bringing it up on Ravelry whilst I'm talking to you. And so whilst I'm on this, I might as well tell you about this jumper. I have worn it for the purposes of today's video. This is Yume by Isabel Kramer. Can you see the yoke? And I'm just wearing it with a pair of leggings, but you know, things like this are really nice with, I mean, you can even, like, I've worn them with like baggy shorts. You could wear it with a dress, that'd be really nice as well. Yeah, so I've got my gauge here, 23 stitches and 41 rows over a 10 by 10 centimetre square. So yeah, and this is Yume by Isabel Kramer. I can put the link to it in the comments later when this video goes live for you. So yeah, I just made that to test out the yarn, because when we got this yarn, the first thing I was like, summer tops. Like, I never had a huge desire to make summer tops before, but just getting this yarn and dyeing it all up, I've just had a craving for making one. So this was a quick knit. Obviously it gets slow, you know, when you get around to here and you've got a billion stitches on the needles, that's quite slow, but up until like the last few rows this was quick. I found the yarn smooth and quick to knit with, and it works perfectly well for the lace. There's a good stitch definition there. And then what I did actually for this project, because I knew it would be the fastest way to do it, was I got to the split for the sleeves and then I hooked it up onto the knitting machine. So on the knitting machine you can only go back and forth, and to be honest, you need to be doing stocking stitch for it to be the efficient thing to do, which is what I was using it for. So I hooked up the front, knitted that in one piece, then hooked up the back, knitted that in one piece, and then I've got a seam down each side in mattress stitch, and then I just hand knitted again the finish on the sleeves and the bottom hem. So that was a really quick way for me to test it, both hand knitted and machine knitted, and get a garment and be able to wear it and test it quickly. And I really recommend it for a garment. So I did spend quite a bit of time on Ravelry looking through patterns, and like constantly changing my mind about what to make, which is ridiculous, but you do it, don't you? You just do. So the main other one that sprung to mind for me was Esther by Justina Lorkowska, who is also known as Leets Knits. I think is it Leets or Letty? Do you know, I'm not sure, I've only ever seen it written down. Anyway, Justina, I'm sure you will know who I'm talking about either way. And yeah, so her what was it, Esther, is it's got like lovely saddle shoulders, which I think look really cool, and patterning on the yoke, and then I think it's a plain body, and it's a t-shirt, so that'd be absolutely ideal in stuff like this. That'd be so cool. The other thing, which, and I do want to make one of these, is one of our own patterns, which is Tiny Shoots by Kate Heppel. There's me looking very, very grumpy on the front cover. So could probably do with an updated picture really for this. It's plain at the back, the lace is only on the front. Here we go. Actually, I have got an actual one to hand. The lace is only on the front. It's knitted in pieces. I think, is the whole thing? No. Let me just check. Yeah, so front and then back and then join the back and front. Right, so you knit your front and then you knit your back and then you join them and carry on down. But again, the gauge on that, well, the gauge on that is 18 stitches and 30 rows to 10 centimeters. So that's like what I would normally get with Aran yarn. So that's a very light, loose, wet sort of gauge. So that's Tiny Shoots. And I have got one to hand actually, so that you can see what it is. Can you see that? It's got a lovely lace yoke, but just at the front, so not too taxing. Short sleeves. This is a small one, which was knitted with a longer body, so it looks like a tunic, but it's kind of not. But anyway, and it's a really lovely lightweight sort of thing. This particular one is knitted in Askham 4-ply in walnut, which is the last of the colours that we've got left of Askham, well, of the mill-dyed Askham 4-ply anyway. So we've still got a little bit of that left. But anyway, yeah, I think that would be so beautiful in this yarn. Just bear with me, have my drink. Oh, coffee. That's better. So, I'll tell you what, I'll show you the swatches before we go through the colours, seeing as we're talking about like what to make with it and that kind of thing. So the other knitted swatch that I have is this one. The contrast colour there is Snow Leopard, so the black spots don't stand out that well, but anyway, hopefully you get the idea. The contrast is Hayton 4-ply, because somebody was asking about it in the Facebook group. Would Hayton 4-ply work with the Keld? And I was like, do you know what? I don't know. I really don't know, because Hayton 4-ply, like the one that I was showing you before, is slightly floofy, and therefore it's a slightly thicker yarn. So I actually really thought it probably wouldn't. Just kind of showing you that from every direction. And the Hayton stitches, I wouldn't say they're slightly bigger, but they're ever so slightly thicker. Like, they kind of slightly stand proud of the Keld. And I think if you were somebody that kind of struggled with tension, you might find that your Keld stitches were coming in much smaller than your Hayton. But if you're good with tension and keeping it even, then I think that works. I mean, certainly for me, I would use those two together again. It's quite a random combination, but a totally valid point. And I'm really glad that the question got asked, because it made me test it. And it hadn't occurred to me to test Hayton with Keld. So thanks for asking about that. The next one that I want to test, which again is like two totally different yarns, is the Keld fingering with Brimham High Twist. Again, that's quite a fine yarn, but the texture's so different. It'll be really interesting to see how the two go together. To be honest, they'll probably be absolutely fine, but that is something that I need to actually do in order to hazard a guess, really. So that's the next swatch. I was hoping to have it done for this video, to be honest, but just don't have that much time. So that was that one. That was on, by the way, 3.5mm needles again. Laura crocheted swatches as well. So these are in the colourway Meadow Rue. Oh, this, by the way, is tied. I will talk about that in a sec. This is Meadow Rue. So this is a 2.5mm crochet hook. Laura's swatches are so much neater than mine, especially the crochet ones. So that was 2.5. This is 3.5. Okay, and this is 4.5. And because she's made a top in it as well. Do you know, I honestly can't remember what it's called, but we'll put the link to it in the comments for this video. But it's a vest top, like a tank top, and it's really, really nice. So that's what these swatches were for. So I'll just show you them together. So you've got 2.5, 3.5 and 4.5, if you can see those. So they're really pretty. Right, okay, should we do colours? Because I know that's really useful, isn't it? The first thing I just want to talk about is the tide, because a lot of people have been asking about it. I have done tide for the update as well, but I just want to show you the difference between the two dye lots, because the one that I'm wearing is much more muted than the one for the update. This is much brighter. Just, you know, that's what hand dyed yarn is like. It can come out different. Sometimes it's really, really consistent, and other times it isn't. So that's a nice bright dye lot. So if you like the zingy version, then you're in luck. So that's tied. I'll just show you a few individuals. We've got Marigold, Stone Chat, which is the sort of warm dusty pink, I would say. It's meant to have a little bit of a yellowy orangey kind of feel to it. Charcoal. I particularly love the charcoal, actually, because I love the way it shows the linen through. And it seems to have, this is weird, but, and it's not intentional, but it seems to have like a slight yellowy tint to it, which is a bit weird, but I really like it. I just love the way you can see the linen. It's so gorgeous. Coppice, which is a sort of nice earthy green, soft earthy green. This is Iris. Okay. What else is on this side? Oh, Driftwood. I've been showing you that, haven't I? Driftwood. This doesn't show the linen very well, but I do think it's important to have these colours as part of the palette, because, you know, look how well it goes with Stone Chat. I mean, I love that pairing. And same with Coppice. So whilst it doesn't show the linen all that well, I do think it still holds its value as a colour. What else have we got? This is Red Kite, and this is another one where it's come out different to how it like normally does. It's not as red as it should be, to be honest. And also I think some of the skeins have got a teeny little bits of red in, which I have shown in the product pictures. So if you don't like that, don't buy it, because chances are I think all of the skeins will have little tiny hints of actual red in. Meadow Rue, I know I always do this colour, but I just love it. It's one of my favourites. Sort of soft dusky pink, but it's so much more lilac-y than Stone Chat. You know, Stone Chat's the kind of warm pink, whereas that's much more lilac-y. They're both kind of dusty and dusky and lovely. Anyway, oh, you're gonna like this. Mountain Hare, one of our favourites, which is, I mean, it's just a mix of browns really, but again, it shows off the linen really, really well. Barn Door, which is a sort of a mix of neutrals, really. Goes really well with Mountain Hare. I'll show you in a sec. This is clay. It's come out a bit pink on this yarn. It's meant, you know, it's meant to be kind of like, not quite coffee colour, but it's certainly meant to be brownish, and it's come out quite pink, but that does actually work out well. And then we've got Heliotrope, which is just another dusky pink, I'm afraid. And Robin Egg. Just see the little bits of linen in it. Is that all of them? I feel like I did more than that. I wonder if I'm missing a whole box of yarn again. No, that's got to be all of them. But I'll show you some colour combinations anyway. So what do we have? Tied with Robin Egg. Okay, and then what about Charcoal with Robin Egg? And then, right, so you've got Mountain Hare, Barn Door. I just love those two together. But then you could put something like clay with them. Would Red Kite work? Yes, that works, doesn't it? Look at that. You could have those three. And then, so that's clay. So Heliotrope and Meadow Rue they're related colours. This is kind of like, I suppose, what you might call sister colours. Can you see that? So they go together, but also I really like those two, like with Mountain Hare. Oh, and you could put Driftwood with them, or you could let me think, you could lose the Meadow Rue and have Mountain Hare, Heliotrope and Driftwood. There's just so many possibilities. What else? So there's Iris. Actually, I think Iris is the one colour that doesn't go with much else, which is a bit silly of me, wasn't it? What would you put with it? Driftwood. Yeah, that works. There's not a lot of contrast between the Driftwood and the natural in Iris though. Or Charcoal. I mean, Charcoal goes with everything. That works. And what else have we got? Coppice. What should we put Coppice with? So Coppice and Stone Chat for sort of a classic pink and green. Let me think. I'm not sure about that. That's Coppice and Clay. I think they work together, but I'd probably go with something. I'd probably go with the Driftwood because it lifts it a bit more. Or the Charcoal, again, is just a bit more inspiring, isn't it? What else do we have under here? Oh, the Marigold. So Marigold, look, you've got Marigold and Red Kite, which that kind of feels like a classic combination. But you could do like Marigold, Red Kite, and does that work with Mountain Hare? I think it does, because Mountain Hare's got this bit of like goldy coppery in it, which goes with that. So I think that does work. And then oh, that's Iris. Where are we? Again, Barn Door does have some warmth in it. I can't see it on that end of that skein. There you go. Look, you've got a bit of warmth to it there, which is picked out nicely by the Marigold. So yeah, there's a lot of colour combinations to go with here. Robin Egg and Meadow Rue again, or Robin Egg and again, yeah, Driftwood. See, driftwood, it's a classic. It goes with everything, and it sort of it allows the other colours to be lifted. I've told you about Tide, haven't I? Tide with I think I'd put with Robin Egg more than anything else. But if you had, certainly with Tide, you need quite a strong grey, I think, with this, because it's quite a strong colour. Let's have a look at it with charcoal. You see, it works with charcoal really, really nicely. If it was light, if the grey was lighter than this, what I would say is that you would need the grey to be able to be in the background, and that would be okay. Like if the grey was a sort of a more of a main colour, this would massively overshadow it. So just be careful with strong colours like that. So yeah, I think that's. I feel like really do feel like I dyed more than that, but maybe I didn't. I think I probably should have done, shouldn't I? Yeah. Anyway, we will get more of this yarn as soon as we can. We're actually starting to see the effects of sort of COVID closures coming through, because they stopped producing yarn like a few weeks ago, and then because our supplier has gradually run out, there is going to be a gap for quite a few of the yarns. I'm not sure if we can get any more of this for a few weeks. I shall be checking on that today anyway, because now that I look at it all spread out, it kind of doesn't seem that much. Especially if you're going to get sweater quantities, which I totally would. So that's the curled fingering. I wonder if I've told you everything about it. Oh, I'll tell you what, I did bring down a few more patterns for just pattern ideas. So like I was saying before, just be careful with the meterage, but sort of 1 skein shawls, we've got willow. I picked out willow because you can kind of do it until you run out of yarn, or you could do a 2 skein version and get a big shawl out of it. So something like that would be a nice summer shawl in curled. The other shawl that I brought down is Acer. I'm just checking for pictures. Oh, that's a better picture. Can you see that? I've made one of these. With this, you definitely can just keep going until you run out of yarn. As long as you get to the end of your row, you're fine. So that'd be really, really nice summer sort of shawl in this yarn as well. I'm saying summer, but I mean, I'm going to be wearing this all year round, so you know. A couple more cardigans. Well, I say a couple more, the other one was a jumper, wasn't it? So a couple of cardigans. Hut 8, which is sort of a classic, an ECY classic from our Bletchley collection, which is, oh, it's nearly 6 years old, is Bletchley. That's amazing, isn't it? It's the first book that we produced. God, that was a baptism of fire. But it was a lot of fun. So that was by Joanne's Grace. And that's knitted. I'll tell you about the gauge and then you sort of know what kind of thing it is. 24 stitches. So that's this sort of gauge in a cardigan. So that'd be ideal for this time of year. And then this is pleated cardigan by Kat Goldin. This is crocheted. And I just grabbed this while I was looking through all the patterns, because I just kind of was going past it and thought, ooh, actually, yeah, that'd be really smart in a linen blend, wouldn't it? So the gauge on that, I'm not as sure about crochet gauge, it has to be said. It says a 4mm hook. So, and it looks like quite a lightweight cardigan actually. 9 stitches and 10.5 rows in paired treble crochet over a 10 by 10 centimetre square. So, I mean, I'd have to do that to know what that means, to be honest, because I'm quite rubbish with crochet gauge. But that especially being on a 4mm hook, seems like a good sort of summery, well, you know, mid-season, as they say, sort of thing. So there's a few pattern ideas for you. I'm sure after this has gone live, Laura and I will be writing up a blog post to tie in with it. Just bear with me though, because it really does take ages to write these blog posts, because there's so much, and especially when it's written, because we like to find all the direct links and everything for you so that you can just click on it and go straight to the thing. But just doing stuff like that, it takes ages. The last blog post that I did was, which new yarn was that? What was our last new yarn? Oh, Lowther Lace. And it took me a full day just to write the blog post, and that was after Laura had already transcribed what I'd said from the Shedcast. So it's quite a big job writing these blog posts, but it will happen. Just bear with me, that's all. And we'll sort of put links in and pattern ideas, and the thing is, we can always update that as well as we get more ideas. So that's the sort of like super exciting brand new yarn, totally different to other stuff. That's that bit of news. The next thing, do you know, this actually overshadowed it a little bit, because I ended up forgetting that I'd also dyed quite a lot of Rosedale 4-ply for this update as well. So poor old Rosedale 4-ply. It's such a beautiful yarn as well. And when I remembered it, and I went looking in the box to get it all out and photograph it, and I was like, oh, I totally forgot about all of this. And it's so pretty. So I'll just turn the camera and show you. There you go. Yeah, yes, I have just literally emptied out boxes of yarn onto the desk. There's just not really any other way to do it, to be honest. You just got to tip it all out. So I think it's, yeah, I'll sit here and then you can see most of it. Apologies if I turn away from the camera, but you're looking at the yarn anyway, you're not looking at me, are you? So Rosedale 4-ply, we already will have a little bit in stock, so most of this is new, but there's a tiny bit of it that isn't. So all of these minis are already in stock. It's the full-size skeins that I've dyed for the update, and yeah, I just had a lot of fun with it, to be honest. So I'll remind you about the yarn in case you haven't seen it before. If you have and you know all this, then apologies, I'm repeating myself. Rosedale 4-ply is a sparkly gold sock yarn. It's 80% superwash, superfine merino, 15% nylon, 5% gold stellina sparkle. I did do a Shedcast like really specifically about this yarn, and I talked about the differences between like stellina and lurex, which is another type of sparkly stuff. So I won't go on about that again, mostly because I can't actually remember what I said. But if you do want to know, then if you go back probably a couple or more Shedcasts, it'll be in the title, you should be able to find that. So yeah, now this is 400 meters to 100 grams. It's a plied yarn rather than a singles, and I'm just having a look if it's true 4-ply actually. Again, I'll have probably mentioned it in the previous Shedcast about it. Yeah, that's a true 4-ply, as in there are actually 4 strands twisted together. And this beautiful colourway is Barn Door, which I just absolutely love. It's just these kind of soft neutrals, isn't it? I just love them. And so, and again, I have also done mountain hair. I forgot to bring it through. I've knitted a hat in mountain hair. It's on my Ravelry projects page anyway, if you want to have a look. It's Seriform Hat by David O'Kelly, which is my other half. and it's got a textured pattern to it, like it's created by knitting and purling, and it's in little squares, and it's kind of like they're all split into triangles. I'm really not explaining that well. Have a look on my Ravelry. I'm V Magnus on there, so I'm pretty easy to find, and it's in my projects. Again, I can link to it from the comments. So yeah, a 4-ply hat, a sparkly 4-ply hat, more to the point, is a project that I really recommend. I don't think 4-ply hats are that popular, and they should be, because they're awesome. And like at this time of year, when, I mean, it says, do you know what, it says it's 20 degrees, it's totally not 20 degrees, but it's damp, it's quite windy. If I was out dog walking, well, I will be later, I will want to take a very lightweight hat with me, and I will take a 4-ply hat, probably the one that I'm talking about, because I've left it on the kitchen table and forgotten to bring it up to the shed with me. So I'm very, very much for 4-ply hats, and they don't have to be done on a really, really tiny needle. You know, you could do it on like a 3.5mm needle and get quite a loose gauge and still have a decent hat. So it doesn't have to be like tight and fiddly to knit. Anyway, so mountain hare and barn door, which I've been waving around and I really don't want to put down. What else do we have? We've got heliotrope again. I mean, I do tend to go through phases with colours, which is why you'll see quite a lot of repetition. That's just the way I work. At some point, you know, I'll have dyed it like 5 times recently, and then I'll just stop and I'll do something else, and I'll come back to it another time. But anyway, heliotrope. I'll tell you what, do you want to look how different it is on the 2 yarns, actually? There you go. Look how much more brown it is on the Keld compared to the Rosedale. It's quite interesting, that, actually. That's making me wonder if I've got any others that I've done the same. Yes, I have. Check out charcoal. That's actually quite similar, isn't it? Yeah, they're quite similar. That's quite interesting. That's a point. I should swatch these 2 yarns together, shouldn't I? Because you could make something in the linen and just have a little bit of sparkle running through. Oh, that'd be nice. I've been messing about with my blues recipes because of problems with the dyes randomly changing, which I think did I mention it last time? Anyway, so there'll be lots of similar blues probably coming up. Pennine Mist, which is a grey blue. It should really be a bit more greyish than this, but anyway, it's still really pretty, and it works so well with the gold sparkle, because that's the thing, you see, when you're doing something, to me anyway, doing a yarn with gold sparkle, in the back of my mind I'm constantly thinking, how's this going to look with that gold in it? When it's a silver sparkle, yes, I am thinking that, but the silver's a neutral colour, so it will go with anything that I dye on it. And so when I'm dyeing a silver one, what I'm thinking is, how will this look in terms of the actual sparkle, but not so much the colour, if that makes sense. Whereas with this, because the sparkle is gold, that is its own colour, and I think it pays to be mindful of how that gold works with the colour that you're dyeing. So these aren't just any old colours, and it's like I was saying with the Keld, once I tested it and really started to get it sussed out, what I was thinking is, how is this colour going to look with the linen showing through? Will the linen show through? Do I need it to show through? Will it enhance the colour? Will the colour look good with the linen showing through? You know, you just kind of, all of this stuff goes through your mind. Anyway, so that was quite a big diversion, wasn't it? I'll tell you what else I've done, and I really, really like this, and I'm going to do it again. So this is the first batch of it, and I would definitely make it again, is allium. It's non-specific allium, if I'm honest. It's alliums, multicoloured ones. I don't know if you can really tell from there, but it does have a little bit of brown running through it, as well as the sort of dusky lilacs. I'm really, really pleased with that colourway, so I would definitely be doing it again. Oh look, here's one where you can just about see a little bit of brown running through. Yeah, I'm loving that. Cottage Garden. This is really, really pretty. I mean, look at that with the I don't know if you can see the sparkle actually on the video. You might be able to if the light's catching it. So Cottage Garden, to be honest, it's normally got quite a bit more green in it, but such is the way of hand-dyed yarn. Some batches do and some batches don't. So that's a really nice delicate colour. I imagine it being just something really soft and sumptuous and delicate, and I hope you didn't just hear my tummy rumble. And I think the gold really, really enhances that. Oh, I just love it. What else? So garden, here's a segue. I've also done Secret Garden. I'm just going to pull one out because otherwise I'll collapse that mountain. This is Secret Garden, a mix of pinks, and it's just got just a few dark brown dapples and a little bit of green to it as well. So again, it's sort of, you know, it's meant to be sort of delicate, and well, I just hope that it evokes sort of what I want it to evoke, really. For Secret Garden, for me, that's kind of like, you know, the climbing roses going over like fences and gateways and things like that, and you know, when the sun kind of shines through and the petals sort of, they glow a bit, don't they? But they may, I mean, I've got a little bit of a thing for like half dead roses. I like it sounds silly, but I like the way that the edges of the petals have started to go brown and curl up, and they get a bit more colour and a bit more texture to them when they're sort of starting to die off a bit. So it's just all that kind of thing that's in my head when I'm dyeing something like Secret Garden particularly, and I kind of, you know, I just hope that you get a feeling of that when you see the yarn, really. Anyway, moving on. I've showed you charcoal, so I won't go back to that. I've done a couple of ombre colourways. Actually, one of them still needs labelling. I've done a Black Magic Rose ombre, and I've done a Ash to Flowering Currant ombre, which was fun. Oh, you can see the sparkle there, can't you? I don't know if you could before, but you certainly can in that dark pink. So that's rather lovely. So, and I will show you what it looks like untwisted. Not that one, because that's really neat and lovely. But I will untwist this one for you, and I hope that it's a nice, perfect skein. Yeah. Give it a good snap. Can you see? It's always good to do that. It really just loosens up the fibres and lets them breathe a bit. There you go. That's an ombre. So, and now you can watch me twist it up again. This is how I twist yarn when I have to do it by hand. Actually, you can see the ombre quite well there. Get that really nice and tight. Tuck it into my chin. Give it an extra twist. Shove it through. Control the twist like that. means that you get a nice neat skein. If you just let it go, it'll just go and it'll go really messy and horrible. That's how you do a neat skein by hand. But if you do a lot of it, you will get friction burn under your chin. Just be aware of that. So that's an ombre. Again, I won't go into loads of depth about that here because I have talked about it before, but things like mitered squares in both crochet and knitting work well for these because you get the full colour repeat per little module, really. So that's ombre for you. I'm trying to hurry up now. Another colourway that I've done, which I'm really liking, is Blue Tit. There was a blue tit on the bird feeder, and I just looked out and I thought, do you know, I've done all these other birdie colourways and I haven't done blue tit. I've done sparrow, I get sparrows. I've done starling, I get starling. Why haven't I done blue tit? So I did blue tit, and I actually did the blue tit illustration on the same day as well, just totally on a whim. If you've no idea what I'm talking about, it's a little illustration that I just did of a blue tit. I've shared it on social media, so you can look that up if you want to. Anyway, yeah, so this is the blue tit colourway. And yeah, I think that looks great on the gold sparkle. I'm dead chuffed with that, and I will definitely be doing it again. I think that would make a really cool pair of socks or a shawl, or again a hat or something like that. So that's blue tit, and I think the final, I've got what have I got here? I've got more Stone Chat. So Stone Chat on Rosedale 4-ply meets Stone Chat on Keld fingering. It's darker on the Keld fingering, isn't it? Yeah, I love how this colour looks with the gold sparkle. They go together really nicely, which is why I keep doing it. So a couple of colourways that I haven't done for absolutely ages. If you've been following me for a while, you might have seen them before, but if you haven't, these might actually be new to you. I have Orkney Landscape. It's got lots of colours in it, but I try not to do them like have any one overpowering the others. So it's kind of, so this is one of those colourways where for me it's like doing a watercolour. So that's Orkney Landscape, but I do also have Orkney Seascape. I'm just looking for a skein that shows off the colours best. I think that one probably does. To be honest, I think it probably should have more dark grey in it. So well, when I next do it, it will have more dark grey in it because I'll add that to my notes. But yeah, and then those are the two together. So Orkney Landscape, Orkney Seascape. As you can probably imagine, they are inspired by a trip that I took to Orkney with one of my friends. We drove up there. It took about 14 hours to drive up and get the ferry, and we had a week, and it was great. We just we had a few key things that we knew we wanted to go and see, and other than that, like each day we would just either go out on foot or go out in the car and just look for, like, you know, the brown signs where it's like places of interest. And we would just like pootle around, see a sign and be like, should we stop there? Yeah, all right, let's stop there. And just stop and, you know, have a look round, and then maybe get something to eat, and then hop in the car and carry on, or go for a walk along the beach or whatever. It was a really fantastic holiday, and obviously the landscape and the seascape were just stunning, and they captured my imagination so much. It was a few years ago now, actually. I should try and find some pictures and put them up. But yeah, so that's why I randomly have colourways inspired by Orkney. It's not completely random, really, it's because we went. So that's those two. I'll just switch sides because hiding behind me we also have Wallflower, which is one of my brighter colourways, but it's orange, so you know that's allowed. Lovely zingy bright orange. You see, I think people can be a bit funny about orange, but look, it works. That totally works. Goes well with teal. I tell you what, it goes well with charcoal. Love those two together. It also goes well with my next colourway, which again is Red Kite. But it, like with the Keld, it's less red than it should be really. Although I do like it, so I might be tempted to leave it like this. And those are the two together for comparison again, because why not? But these two, again, you know, they're just gorgeous with that gold sparkle. It works really, really well, which is why I've done them. We have lots, well, actually say lots, probably not loads and loads. We have some Rosedale 4-ply minis still in stock, as I mentioned earlier. And what did spring to mind when I was sifting through the patterns, I brought a couple down as suggestions because it just struck me that they'd be nice. So Collingham mitts. Now in the pattern I used Milburn 4-ply and just did colour blocks, but you could totally make these, they're elbow length fingerless mittens if you can't see that picture too well. You could totally make those with like one skein of this, and that's just, it's just something a bit different to do with 4-ply, isn't it? You know, rather than the immediate kind of like, oh, socks, oh, shawl. Sometimes it is nice to do something just a little bit different. So I'm just wondering if there's any better pictures in the pack. Ooh, yes, there you go, look. So you could totally make those with a skein of sparkly 4-ply. That'd be lovely. Oh, what you could do is you could make them with a skein of sparkly 4-ply, and you could, I'm just looking for the best, what's the best colour? You could, you could just put the odd little stripe in, or you could have, this is the main colour, and you could do the cuffs, like the ribbing, just in a sparkly mini. So what could you do? You could do like blue tip with, just bear with me, what would I use? No, that's too green. I might have to do an update of minis. Does that work? That works. Pennine Mist. That works. Or if you've got anything in stash, of course, you could put it together. What I actually, sorry, I'm really distracted now. That's really got my brain going. Poor thing. It's making it work now. I'm not sure about those two. That's oak. What about Little Owl? Yes, that's more like it. So this is Mountain Hare with Little Owl as the mini. Anyway, so yeah, moving swiftly on. What I actually really was going to say is Skimming Stones, although admittedly I think this is the last copy of this pattern that we have, but we can always buy more. In fact, I should order those today. Skimming Stones is written for 1 main colour and 4 20-gram minis. Now we normally sell this as Carlisle fingering yarn packs or full kits, either or. But what I was thinking is you could do this. I'll just show you. I hope you can see that. Let me just see if there's any other pictures in the pattern really quickly. Don't want to take up too much more of your time. No, there aren't. So just quickly off the top of my head, shall we see if I can put together a pack? So what about Barn Door with Little Owl, Oak? I'll show them better in a minute. Does Pennine Mist work? Yes, it does. Pennine Mist and, oh, that's not labelled. Let me see its label. I must get on that when I finish. There's probably more colours under here that I can't see because I've just ticked out the box. Ooh, ooh, So that's it with Thunder. But what if I get rid of that and put in Black Magic Rose? What does that do to the mix? That's nice. You sort of want the Black Magic Rose there next to the oak, and then you've got the contrast of the Pennine Mist, and they all pull out the colours of this. It's kind of hard to tell, isn't it? I think if I just turn that and you can see more of the colours in it. Yeah, so we do have other mini skeins in stock as well, not just these, and you can mix and match the bases, of course. On the whole, if it's in the 4-ply or fingering weight section on the website, you can really mix and match. You just need to be careful of the meterage, and just be aware that with the plied yarns you might get there's a slightly thicker stitches than the singles yarns, but you know, if you're so confident about your tension, then definitely I would mix and match, because I've used things like Milburn 4-ply with both Carlisle and Nateby, and Nateby's definitely a lot more floofy than the other two, and sort of striped them, and they've worked absolutely fine. So that's those. Coffee. Slightly cold coffee. That's not good. That means it's time to wrap up, really, doesn't it? Before I go, really quickly, these are long overdue swatches, it has to be said, but I thought I'd just share them with you. This is what Snow Leopard looks like, knitted and crocheted. 3.5mm hook, 3.5mm needles, and I actually made like a proper edging and everything. I normally just like let the edges curl, but I thought no, I'm going to do it properly this time. If it's going on video and it's going to be sat there forever, I'm going to do it properly. So I made the effort, and then it's really hard blocking circles, isn't it? It's not just me. So that's just a basic circle, really, because I would love a jumper in this. And we have it in stock on both Hayton 4-ply and Hayton double knit. This is Hayton 4-ply. So I thought I'd just share that with you, seeing as I've just made and blocked them. It's completely unrelated to any of this, just totally random thing to finish with. Snow Leopard. I'll tell you what, I actually also really want to make an actual toy Snow Leopard in it. I think that would be really nice. So yeah, so that's all the update. Pattern suggestions, colourway combinations, all about the yarns. I think we've covered everything. That's, yeah, gotta be everything. We've got loads of cool stuff coming up over the next few weeks. I suppose we always do. As long as we're always busy, we're always going to have loads of cool stuff coming up. In brief, we've got Bowland double knit coming. We've got brand new proper Donegal tweed double knit and 4-ply. They're dyed and ready for photography, so they'll be coming soon. Oh, what else have we got? I'll tell you what, we've got Harewood fingering coming soon as well, which we've actually not had for 2 years. So that's quite exciting. That's a nice high twist blue face Leicester. So that's coming soon. What else have we got? I think that's all we've got actually properly planned, but we're actually going to be doing a bit more planning this afternoon, to be honest, because when I think about what we've got in the garage, there's loads of stuff that we could do. That we've not got much left of. Like we've not done Titus 4-ply for absolutely ages. Tempo 4-ply, not done it for ages. Brim high twist is low again. So within the realms of what we can actually get that hasn't been delayed by COVID, I'm just going to keep restocking as we always do. you know, I will always keep going back to old colourways because, like with Driftwood, they're absolute classics. They, for me, I think they hold their value, and it's always worth having them there. They're not, I know they're not eye-catching, they're not jazzy, they might look dull on the photographs, but when you pair them with other colours or really classic, beautiful stitch patterns, then they really come into their own. So there's always going to be the classics, and of course I'm always coming up with new stuff as well. So you know, I'm generally feeling quite inspired. I do tend to at this time of year. I get quite energised by it all. So let me just think. Tell you what I want to finish on. This is totally unrelated to us. Midwinter Yarns are having a crowdfunder at the moment for their black and blue yarn, which is Welsh Blueface Leicester. It's from a farm in Wales. It's being spun, I think, is that in Wales as well? It's certainly in Britain. And they're holding a crowdfunder to fund the next batch of it because they had it and it sold really well, and then quite a lot of stuff happened which meant that they couldn't get any more. So to be honest, by the time this video goes out, the crowdfunder might actually be complete, because when I checked before I came in, it was like £300 away from their stretch target, which is amazing. So if you've already backed that, thank you so much. Like I said, I've no vested interest in it at all, other than the fact that I want them to do well. So thank you if you've backed them, and if you haven't, please do go and have a look. It's Midwinter Yarns. I mean, what they do, it's completely different to what we do, and the black and blue yarn, it is totally different to anything that we've got, but you know, if you're like me, you will appreciate both. I love woolly yarns just as much as I love all of my own sort of smooth, silky kind of things. So Midwinter Yarns crowdfunder, if it's not already complete, which it might be by now, please consider supporting them. So I think that is actually properly everything. There's probably loads more that I could talk about, but I'll leave it for now. So I think the next Shedcast will probably be about the tweed. I think I've still got quite a lot of swatching to do on that, but the yarn is all dyed up, so that's sort of ready to go. So yeah, enjoy the Keld fingering and the Rosedale 4-ply update. I really look forward to seeing what colour combinations you get, but also what you then end up making with it all. That's really, really exciting for me. It's kind of like, you know, I get to do the colouring in, and then I get to send it all away, and you make beautiful things with it. So, you know, it's like this is only the first part of the process, and this is only like half the creativity. The rest of it comes from you, and you always spot colour combinations that I haven't spotted. And you know, when we're packing the orders, we do, I mean, it's Dave that's packing them at the moment because obviously because of COVID, but you know, he will come through to me in the dye shed and go, oh, look at these colours together, oh, look at this, do you think this is going to make a jumper, or do you think somebody's going to make a blanket with this, or you know, just all that kind of thing. It's really, really exciting for us because it's just that creativity and inspiration, and it motivates me to then carry on, really, and to continue to be creative and to find inspiration. So yeah, enjoy it. Thank you very much in advance, really, for everything. You know, thank you in advance for buying the yarn, but thank you also for watching my videos. I'm getting people asking me when I'll be doing the next one, so clearly hopefully you're getting some value out of them, which is fantastic. It takes quite a bit of setup to sort of get everything organised, so it's really, really wonderful that you're finding them useful. I'm sorry that this has been such a long one. I've sort of, you know, tried to be quick without going too fast, but there was quite a lot to cover, and yeah, hopefully you've been able to get your teeth into it. So I shall see you next time, and enjoy the update tomorrow, and I really look forward to see what you make with these yarns.